In the beginning of March 2020, the pandemic burst in Europe. The isolation was certain and work from home was the only option. I was happy, no more traffic, no more ironing, no more haircuts. I got the chance to stay home and make everything that I really wanted. The consultant was gone and a new me was born. I had the ideal job. As well, I finally got the chance to finish restoring my car. I even started a YouTube channel called Brave Beaters. But, as you know, every good thing comes with a trade-off. Home gets home office. The working hours and the focus expanded until the sacred place, home, becomes a place where you bring, keep and maintain job problems. This transforming into a lifestyle, one day after another, 1 month after another, 1 year after another. So the paradigm changed. From the desired and conquered freedom, I was actually condemned home. In time, my behavior changed. I lost my interest in the way I look, I lost my etiquette and the way I dress, and I became careless. I got more comfortable, and I got interested in practical emotional things with immediate reward, wristwatches. I was lost. But an amazing thing happened. I wasn't aware of my overall condition as I was aware with my wristwatches. And I realized through watches that I was in a bad shape. I was constantly choosing comfort and practicality, buying robust watches and divers which I thought they would fit my narrowed universe. These ticking objects made me realize how bad I was, and as well the wristwatches showed me the way out. They showed me the path to recover and prioritize what is important for me. And step by step, I am constantly improving. Sometimes it's the person next to you, sometimes it's you. But sometimes an object can give you enough motivation and meaning to fight for. And for so long, Santos de Cartier was the projection of future me. It was the anchor that motivated me to wish to be better. So, I did it. A rectangle means order. Order means certainty. Certain means precision. These are attributes that addresses elegance. A well-defined shape will always provide certainty and elegance as long as it's perfectly readable. And it will provide order in chaos, and the other way around, chaos in order. It's exactly the same concept that applies at the 4 o'clock Roman numerals, made from 4 bars instead of 1 and 5, an element that adds balance and order into a dial. The shapes of Cartier were defined in time as symbols of simplicity, elegance and refinement, succeeding in 100 years to make the brand and the same watch to fit both animus and anima. No matter if we're talking about asymmetric, Ballon Bleu, Tourtois, Tank or Santos Dumont. Santos de Cartier is a sport model. Although the brand is heavily associated with elegance and style, this model was not necessarily created to be worn as a timekeeper for cuffs with buttons. The savoir-faire expertise of the brand recommends it as the right wearable which will not pass unnoticed by enthusiasts or non-enthusiasts, because Santos sits at the border between simplicity and complexity. It is simple through its iconic design with blued hands, which contrasts the silver dial decorated with a railway track and Roman numerals, and complex through the diversity of decorations, shapes and finishings provided by the case in association with the bracelet. This model being the most complex watch ever produced by the brand, because the complexity contrast between the dial and the case was imperative, as the imbalance of several complex elements can result in a kitsch. But luckily Cartier has behind an army of artisans which follow strictly the culture and the design language of the brand. Savoir-faire. Concept-wise, this watch is not special because it falls under the trend of the integrated bracelet designs made popular by Gerald Genta. In fact, Genta wasn't even born when Santos started to make history, being the first pilot watch ever made and the first known watch ever strapped into a wrist. The Latin and specific name for a French luxury brand was given when the aviation pilot pioneer Alberto Santos Dumont complained about the difficulties of flying, trying to look at his pocket watch in the same time. And Louis Cartier listened, and in 1904, the Santos Dumont was born. The actual Santos de Cartier concept on a bracelet was inspired from the Dumont model, but adapted to the 70s trends by Alain-Dominique Perrin, and since then the Santos de Cartier was considered as the sport model of the brand, with sophisticated layered shapes and screws starting from the bezel, which continues decorating the bracelet until it meets the brand logo on the clasp. As a purist and as an enthusiast of origins, I wanted to acquire the freshly launched Santos Dumont, a slimmer dressy model powered by a mechanical hand-winding movement and an integrated leather strap as a standard, which I find it extremely spectacular and simple in the same time. But for me as a novice in understanding such watches, the medium automatic Santos was the ideal transition from normal watches to Cartier. But why Cartier watches are different, you will wonder. The brand is committed and faithful to a unique design language. Not like Jaeger-LeCoultre Reverso, which is totally different than other JLC watches. The definition of Cartier is strictly based on a mix between the purity of the line, proportion, preciousness, but discretion in the same time, by adding meaning and language to an elegant outfit. And as a result, the Santos de Cartier is made to unveil a continuous volume, unitary, feeling like a total, a bracelet watch if you like. And unlike other watchmakers, Cartier, because it is as well a jewelry manufacturer, offers equally attention to the bracelet as for the case, the blue cabochon sapphire or the iconic dial finishing, which is totally different than the normal watches, which are cryptically perceived as different volumes. The case volume that pops primarily, and secondarily the strap that keeps the volume tied up on the wrist. Another special thing about Santos de Cartier is the haptic experience around the adaptation of handling the straps or adjusting a bracelet. If normal watchmakers are proposing sharp tools and screwdrivers, which are purposed to be used against beautiful well-finished facets, Cartier solved this with buttons. On leather, Santos de Cartier loses from its complexity, looking more classy, similar to its mechanical Dumont brother. The strap is as well designed to be integrated with the case lugs, and as a result, depending on the lug-to-lug model, the strap is not flexible enough to bend immediately from the lugs to hug smaller wrists. So a criteria to consider if you are looking for a Santos on an integrated leather strap. However, it is spectacular how much complexity you can find on these lug joints, with springs and buttons, everything being crafted for a smoother transition between the straps. And because Santos de Cartier comes on various colors, sizes and features, I can take you through my process thinking and tell you why I chose this medium 34mm version. I was confused because you can try too many models and colors. I guess that's the problem, too many versions. Because if you are a lume enthusiast, they have. If you want a sport watch with presence, they have. And if you want an iconic Santos shape, they have. And if you decide to buy a different shape of a Cartier, they have. Initially, I was lured by the 0037 version, which is a large size with 39mm in diameter. And compared to my Monaco, the 0037 were slightly smaller, having a bezel but a curved and a tailored shape to follow the wrist volume. That model had a worry scratch-free PVD brushed bezel, lume on the Roman numerals, and a rubber strap as extra besides the bracelet. What a contradiction. So what can I say? The ideal transition for my diverse watches. A sport watch designed by Cartier. However, because it is a Cartier, and because the brand is recognized for their elegant creations, I was afraid that this is too courageous and too big and too unnatural for a Cartier. So this is how I chose, despite the love for practicality, the medium version, which is more accurate for a Cartier from the design and the sizing perspective. But most important, I chose this watch because it contributes to my commitment of reinventing myself. And as a personal closing note, these soulless objects were always part of my life. No matter if we're talking about tiny boxes, dinosaurs, sketches, sculptures, or wristwatches. Some were my personal creations, so I learned to put emotions in them. This is how always has been. As I gave them life and believed in them, in return, they showed me how to project my dreams in the future, to envision myself in years, receiving enough motivation to fortify myself by solid principles that would help me to achieve my dreams and projections. And I'm really curious to know if this happens to you as well. Be brave, man. Stay safe.